A missing father, a lifetime of questions, and an answer no one saw coming. One podcast asks, could Asari have changed anything? This is Super Sorry.
Welcome to Super Sorry, the podcast where we use superhero stories to explore apologies and accountability, one awkward conversation at a time.
We're Todd and Amber, Marvel fans, podcast hosts, and two people who think we need to talk could have prevented at least half the problems in the MCU.
And today we're diving into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, a movie with living plants, golden people, a tiny Groot, and an absolutely unreasonable amount of family drama.
Every time this movie starts feeling like a fun cosmic adventure, somebody opens up a decades-old emotional wound. We've got parents and kids, sisters, friends. This movie's basically one big reminder that unresolved feelings don't stay unresolved forever.
Which brings us to today's question. Is it ever too late to repair a damaged relationship? And I'll say my answer is sometimes. Relationships are a little bit like houseplants. If you ignore them long enough, eventually you're just holding a pot of dirt. I can speak from experience.
Okay, all right. We're starting out with a little violence against plants.
Well, you know what I mean.
I guess I do, but I think I might disagree with you. I think this movie argues that as long as people are willing to be honest, there's still hope out there.
I guess so, but have you kept a houseplant alive? This movie, I think, gives us a lot of people who are trying to reconnect, but not all of those repair attempts are created equal.
Yeah, that's probably true. Some characters want a relationship. Some characters want forgiveness. And some characters mostly want a free pass. It turns out those are very different things. Looking at you, Ego.
Right. But we're also looking at Peter and Yondu, Gamora and Nebula, Rocket, and, well, I guess honestly, pretty much everyone Rocket talks to. His apology strategy is basically insult someone, leave, and hope they figure out how he really feels.
Yeah, I think that's a bold approach, I guess with some mixed results.
So today, we're looking at the moments where people try to repair what's broken, the moments where they avoid it entirely, and whether some relationships can actually be saved with saying, I'm sorry.
First up, our apology audit, where we'll sort out who's taking responsibility, who's dodging it, and who's making their emotional baggage everyone else's problem.
Then we'll get into the missed apologies that could have changed everything, before finishing with Damage Diary, where we calculate the emotional and financial costs of one of Marvel's messiest family reunions.
So crank up your awesome mixtape, and let's see whether it's ever too late to make things right. And if we miss something or get it wrong, we are
super sorry.
All right, listeners, where are you landing? Are you with me that it's never too late to start repairing a relationship if you're willing to be honest?
Or are you with me that some damage can't be undone no matter how good your intentions are? Because it turns out Guardians Volume 2 gives us examples of both.
At first glance, this story is like a giant space adventure. The Guardians are together, they're famous, they've got a killer soundtrack, and Baby Groot is doing whatever Baby Groot wants to do.
Which, to be fair, is usually the opposite of what anyone asked him to do. And I love it.
But beneath all the action, almost every major character is struggling with some sort of relationship that's fallen apart or was never healthy to begin with.
Peter finally meets the father he spent his entire life wondering about. Gamora and Nebula are still carrying years of resentment. Rocket keeps pushing away the very people who care about him, and Yondu is left wondering whether he completely blew his chance to be the father Peter needed.
Everybody wants connection. The problem is that connection usually requires honesty, accountability, and vulnerability. Three things almost nobody in this movie is good at.
Instead of difficult conversations, we get avoidance, sarcasm, abandonment, betrayal, and the occasional galaxy-threatening meltdown. Which is why this movie is so fascinating from an apology perspective. A lot of these relationships are damaged, but not all of them are beyond repair.
The big question is whether the characters recognize that before it's too late, which means it's time for our apology audit, where we look at who apologizes by taking responsibility, who avoids it, and who's quietly making things worse while insisting they're helping.
Since Volume 2 is packed with relationship conflict, we've picked our candidates for the strongest and weakest apology moments in the movie. And we'll see how they stack up against today's question, is it ever too late to repair a damaged relationship?
All right, so let's start off with some good news. Who gets your super sorry for best apology in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2?
Well, I think my favorite apology in the movie, my choice for the super sorry, is probably not a surprise to Todd. I'm one of 3 sisters, and so, the sister relationship kind of spoke to me. So my choice is the apology from Gamora to Nebula. What she said was, I was just a child like you. I never considered what Thanos was doing to you. I am sorry. And it really is probably the most complete apology in the film. What I like about it is that it acknowledges Nebula's pain. It doesn't make excuses. It takes responsibility for Gamora's failure for really understanding or seeing what was happening. And it focuses on Nebula's feelings instead of her own intentions. And then it follows, or I guess ends with an action to essentially kind of invite Nebula to join the Guardians. So it's a very complete, I think, apology, and then extends an olive branch. So I really like this. I think it also is the culmination of years of some pretty severe trauma between the sisters. And so I think it's at least starts to help to heal the wound.
Yeah, definitely not surprised that was your selection. I think, like you kind of said too, just kind of reiterating it, this is like the culmination of it. So it feels like a big super sorry just because, there's been years of kind of trauma between the two of them, and not due to their own circumstances or their own interpersonal stuff. It's, from their pseudo father Thanos kind of driving this wedge between them and kind of causing a lot of the pain and damage individually when they kind of then take it out on each other. In some ways, they can't take it out on him. So they kind of go at each other a little bit instead of, hating him more, which I guess they do still, but it's, gets a little messy there.
You say driving a wedge between them, but he's not even driving a wedge. He's literally pitting them against each other in battle, and then basically penalizing the daughter that loses.
Yeah, that's always that little extra turn of the knife. I always feel like it's like for Nebula just to not only lose to your, I guess I'm not sure who's older, but I'm assuming Gamora is the older sister, the bigger sister in this situation, always losing to her, and then not just losing, but just the physical damage, and trauma done to her body because of that. That's just
Yeah. So a lot to come back from, obviously, in this movie. Nebula at a certain point is still trying to kill Gamora. So really kind of lovely in a weird way to see this growth between these two coming back together and acknowledging their bond as sisters over everything else. Todd, why don't you take us into our sorry, not sorry, the worst apology in the movie?
Well, this one probably is another obvious choice here. And this is, I feel like the big one. This is probably big for a lot of the movies here in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is Peter Quill's dad, Ego, when he says to Peter, "It broke my heart to put a tumor in your mother's head." And that is just a devastating line that in any capacity. And Peter's very quick response to start shooting his dad because he's so mad about it is, to me, the proper response. He's definitely upset about that. But he doesn't say the words, "I'm sorry." So maybe not the truest form of sorry, not sorry, but his intentions of the words of kind of apologizing for putting a tumor in his mother's head is there. But man, that's pretty devastating words to hear from your father, your birth father.
Yeah, I'm not really sure the intention was there because he just is talking about himself. It's all about how it relates to him. Oh, I was so sad that I had to put a tumor in your mom's head. That is so messed up. And it maybe the worst apology in the MCU, at least thus far. This is so bad. It doesn't take accountability. It's just justification. It basically just comes down to I hated doing it, but I still chose to do it. So messed up. At the end of the day, a real apology requires some sort of regret, and Ego only regrets being inconvenienced by his feelings. Worst apology ever.
And I think that sticks out and jumps out as one of the worst ones because there's a really good one also in there from a pseudo-father referred to as dad, Peter Quill's dad in this, Yondu, to Peter when he actually kind of gives it a proper apology for his past indiscretions.
Yeah, this is actually my honorable mention because I really like this moment too, but I don't think it's as complete of an apology as what we saw from Gamora to Nebula. This is the scene towards the end of the movie where Yondu acknowledges to Peter, "I'm sorry I didn't do it right, but I'm damn lucky you're my boy." This apology hits hard, I think, because it comes right before Yondu sacrificing himself, but it is a bit of an incomplete apology. It doesn't fully unpack all the ways he hurt Peter over the years, but there is genuine accountability and love behind it. So combined with his other line that he has where he said, "He may have been your father boy," so he's talking about Ego, "He may have been your father boy, but he wasn't your daddy." It just becomes like a very emotional point across, I think, the entire Guardians trilogy. We're only in volume 2, but it's a really important, pivotal moment for Peter to realize who Yondu was in his life.
Yeah, I mean, like your honorable mention like works so well because it's such a flip of the coin to Ego's lack of apology there. And
yeah, the juxtaposition of the two really, I think, bring home Yondu's moment here and really just like...
Yeah, conclusion of the movie. I think it hits a little bit harder just because of the so the terrible father that Ego is.
Well, that wraps up our apology audit. Up next, apologies that could have been, where we imagine the apologies that never happened and how an apology could have changed everything. We've talked about the apology attempts we actually get in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now it's time for the ones we didn't get. Welcome to Apologies That Could Have Been, our little corner of the multiverse where people have difficult conversations before everything catches fire. We call it the Super Sorry Verse.
This is where we jump into the story, hit pause, and imagine what might have happened if somebody had found the right words a little sooner. And this movie gives us plenty to work with, because for a film about family, there are a shocking number of conversations nobody wants to have.
Instead, we get avoidance, deflection, sarcasm, emotional walls, pretty much every communication strategy except honest communication. We're not trying to rewrite the movie, we're trying to repair the relationships. What would have happened if someone acknowledged the hurt, or took responsibility, or gave the other person something they desperately needed to hear?
Because in this movie, people are surprisingly good at finding each other across the galaxy and surprisingly bad at telling each other how they feel. And in a lot of cases, a genuine apology would have been a good place to start.
So we're stepping into the Super Sorry Verse once again. Same characters, same baggage, just a little more honesty. Let's see if we can save a few relationships before they become galaxy-sized disasters. Todd, you're up first. What's your apology that could have been?
Well, this one's a little gray, I guess, but I'm going to bring it up. This is Drax's repeated comments to Mantis. I mean, he's saying kind of bad things to her, but he doesn't realize he's doing it, so it's hard to apologize for...
I think he realizes
does
he's
he realize
doing
it? Okay.
Well, I think... Anyways, keep going.
Well, it seems like Gamora has to step in at one point and kind of point it out to him, but yeah. I mean, he's making fun of her smile. He's playing practical jokes on her. He's saying, like, you're horrifying to look at. But that's a good thing, because if you're ugly, that means if somebody loves you, they really love you, which is...
It's really messed up.
A really messed up comment or whatever. And it goes on where like he mentions that Mantis doesn't have enough meat on her bones for him to like when he thinks she's hitting on him. So there's a lot going on there, a lot to apologize for. But I don't know if Drax would even realize that he needs to apologize for it unless people are pointing out to him. So he might be reluctantly doing it because he thinks nothing's wrong with it.
I feel like Drax has to see like severe consequences in order to apologize. Like back in Volume 1, where he incited a major battle, and it was only after that he was like, oh, I should have done that.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's nothing maybe consequential enough here for him to realize that he needs to apologize.
Yeah, I mean, he's more of a warrior type mentality. So when he sees, like you're mentioning, battle consequences and things along those lines, those resonate more with him as opposed to like feelings.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Well, we touched a little bit on this in the apology audit. So I have a bit of an extension from that. I said I really liked Yondu's apology to Peter, but I thought that it wasn't a full enough apology. So what I would have liked to have seen was a bit of a more full apology, acknowledging more about like the years that Peter spent with Yondu, believing that he had kidnapped him and ruined his childhood. Even though ultimately Yondu was actually protecting him from Ego, when it comes down to it, he was also raising him through threats, fear, emotional distance. He threatened to eat him.
Yeah.
So I would just wish he would have said a little bit more. I know there wasn't a lot of time, but or realized sooner or something, acknowledging that maybe something like, I wasn't the father you deserved. I scared you when I should have been more caring for you, and I'm sorry. He gets close to it when he says, I'm sorry I didn't do it right, but I don't know that was in Yondu's character, so.
Yeah, that's true.
It is what it is.
As you mentioned, there's definitely a ticking clock going on there, so it kind of speeds things up, but you're bringing up a good point. A good apology has a little more explicit description of what you're apologizing for. So that's kind of missing in that, and you would like to see that.
Yeah, it takes a little more ownership, and it's more about how we can apply this to our own lives, realizing you can't just say, I'm sorry I didn't do it right. You need to say more than that, because hopefully you're in a situation where you have the time and not like Yondu was, where he didn't have the time because he was going to die.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely better to be clear.
For me, my next apology that I would like to have seen. This is from the sovereign priestess who's named Aisha. And she kind of kicks off this whole narrative through the whole story that they're trying to get the Guardians for Rocket stealing the batteries. There's obviously a financial consequence of Aisha, losing the batteries, they say a few $1 million of credits and that's happening. But there's so many people involved and so many ships being destroyed and all this, because she kind of, I think, alludes to it or even kind of says it a little bit, is we can't have people stealing from us, it looks bad or whatever. But it's she really doubles down and triples down on that battery being stolen and causes a lot going on. I feel like the little apology there, it's a little overreaction to try to kill the Guardians because they stole a couple batteries.
I agree. It's a bit of an overreaction. I think probably the stakes feel a little bit lower for them because they're kind of just dealing with these drone ships. And so she's not really putting her people in danger because it's they're playing a video game essentially. And so I wonder if that's part of it, that she can get that angry because she's not putting her people in danger as much.
But she's trying to kill somebody for stealing the batteries.
Is, of course. But I'm just saying the consequences don't come back on her as much because she's not actually risking her people's lives.
Yeah. So just for me, it's a little capital punishment for that. It's a little extreme. Yeah.
It's probably the wink had something to do with it.
Always comes back to Rocket and his wink. Yeah. I guess I want to go back a second with the batteries being stolen by Rocket, and when they're flying away from the Sovereign, they're being attacked or whatever. There's a whole conflict between Peter and Rocket fighting over who's controlling the ship, who's a better pilot and whatnot. And basically they're back and forth taking control of the Milano. Causes a lot of damage to it and almost gets them killed because they're kind of fighting over who's the best and not just let's get through this.
There's a lot of ego involved here, not the character.
Is there a theme to this about egos? Deep thoughts.
Well, speaking of ego, I think we made it pretty clear in our apology audit that he's not a good guy. But if he wanted to be a good guy, he could have apologized to Peter. He could have acknowledged that he chose his mission over Peter's mother and all the other people he impregnated and impacted. Of course, I don't expect this from him.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked for the movie. And an apology would have required Ego to acknowledge that Meredith and Peter mattered more than his own mission, which clearly wasn't the point. His ambition trumped everything. So just saying, if he had wanted to make amends, that would have been one way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm jumping on my head too when you're talking about that is just about his mission. This is basically introducing those kind of plant life things that are part of Ego around the galaxy and join these worlds potentially. Apology there would be would be nice because he's introducing these foreign species to these worlds around the galaxy.
Yeah, not only foreign species, but foreign species that then impact those worlds, which we'll cover a little bit more in our damage diary. I guess an apology I would like to see is from Kraglin to Yondu. We kind of get it a little bit, but he participates in Taserface's mutiny, even though it seems like maybe he has doubts. He also is kind of on the side.
Does participate.
Yeah, he's participating, but his choice contributes to Yondu's capture and his torture. And then, of course, his whole crew is pretty much killed because they don't join the mutiny. Of course, by the end of the movie, Kraglin is devastated. He is remorseful, but he could have more explicitly said, like, I should have stood by you from the beginning. I knew it wasn't right and I let it happen and I'm sorry. So he kind of like touches on it a little bit, but like it's not an explicit apology. I feel like maybe this whole crew of the Ravagers aren't the best communicators. So maybe these like half apologies, they say, count for more. But I think if we're taking lessons from it, it's better to say more, not less when you're apologizing.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of where we kind of talk about before about implicit versus explicit apologies. And he's kind of implying his apology, but it would be much better if he, took ownership and then was very, matter of fact about what he's apologizing for.
Yeah, because his choice had a lot of impact on Yondu and what happens next.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up our time in the Super Sorryverse. This is where we've learned that crossing the galaxy is sometimes easier than having a difficult conversation. Clearly.
Finding family is one thing. Rebuilding trust with them is another. And this movie gives us plenty of examples of both.
Up next, Damage Diary, where we'll find out just how much all of this family drama, emotional baggage, and intergalactic chaos actually costs. Welcome to Damage Diary, the part of the show where we track what gets destroyed, who gets hurt, and who ends up paying the price. And in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, family drama turns out to be surprisingly expensive. That's our first lesson. Feelings are free. Consequences are not.
Let's start off with Rocket stealing the Sovereign's batteries. One bad decision later, an entire drone fleet is chasing the Guardians across the galaxy. It's a very expensive case of finders keepers, and by my estimates, between the damaged Milano and the destroyed Sovereign ships, we're easily looking at least 500 million units in damage.
Then we have the Ravager mutiny. Multiple ships damaged, crew members killed, and Yondu's operation basically torn apart from the inside. So let's call that another 25 to 50 million units in losses. Plus the emotional cost of having to take orders from someone named Taserface.
Some wounds never heal, but the real damage report starts with Ego. Specifically, the moment we learn he gave Meredith Quill the tumor that killed her, which means the biggest damage in this movie starts decades before the main plot. Peter loses his mother, grows up without answers, and spends years searching for a father who wasn't worthy of the title.
And if that wasn't enough, Ego activates the expansion. Giant pieces of Ego erupt across multiple worlds. We see roads destroyed, businesses swallowed up, and an entire Dairy Queen wiped out.
For Earth alone, I'd estimate between 200 and 500 million units in damage. That is before the Guardians stop it.
But as always, the biggest damage isn't physical, it's the relationships. Gamora and Nebula lose years to resentment. Rocket keeps sabotaging his own friendships. Peter discovers the father he spent his whole life searching for wanted a power source, not a son. And Yondu spends years hiding the truth, only realizing too late what Peter really needed from him.
So the full cost of the damage between the Sovereign battle, the Ravager mutiny, and Ego's expansion, that puts our estimate to almost 1 billion units in physical damage.
But the emotional damage, it's a lot. The deaths of 2 parents, decades of sibling trauma, one deeply insecure trash panda, and enough trust issues to fill a spaceship.
And that's what Damage Diary is about. Not just the explosions, not just the dollar or unit amount. It's about the people left dealing with the consequences.
Because every bad decision creates a ripple effect. And the people who feel that impact the most aren't always the ones who cause the damage. Sometimes they're the people caught in the middle, the people left behind, the people trying to clean up a mess they never asked for.
So with that in mind, let's turn our attention to the innocent bystanders of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. The characters who ended up carrying the weight of someone else's choices. I'll start us off. My first innocent bystanders, it's got to be the people of Missouri, of the town in Missouri there, where they're in their Dairy Queen getting destroyed. It's just like pretty obvious one there. Ego's plant life that he buried behind the Dairy Queen decades earlier kind of starts growing to fruition and taking over the town there. A lot of Dairy Queens and innocent bystanders affected there.
Yeah, I mean, it ends up being this like giant alien biomass, which erupts and like oozes over the roads and the neighborhoods and the businesses. Like, I imagine there's homes destroyed, businesses, infrastructure, not to mention like the psychological trauma and potential casualties. Definitely a bad day in the MCU.
Oh, for sure. And there's a little shout out to, I think, the Marvel fans out there on the Dairy Queen sign, as it's the Dairy Queen's getting enveloped. And it's like a little sign then where it usually put like, hamburgers 99 cents or whatever. It says fan food, not fast food.
Well, along with the destruction on Earth, there's also all the other worlds that are targeted by Ego. So that biomass that happens on Earth, that happens elsewhere too. And I don't even know how many worlds where he planted these seeds on. Like, we see a couple moments, but it's got to be a massive amount based on the amount of skeletons that are on his planet.
Yeah, I mean, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of buried bodies on Ego's home world. Definitely implies there's a lot of planets being affected there. Yeah.
Yeah. I do have a major question. There is a bystander in this movie who loses apparently a toe because Baby Groot, as he is trying to help an imprisoned Yondu and Rocket, they're trying to get him to bring, Yondu's, what's it called?
Fin? I think they call it fin.
His fin, yeah. They're trying to have him bring his fin. And of course, Baby Groot can't figure it out. And one of the times he brings back a severed toe. So I want to know, whose toe was that? Because somebody was very impacted.
Yeah, what's interesting about that scene too is usually something like that will happen and they'll kind of move on. But Peter actually has follow-up questions for it in the moment. It's like, do you have like a refrigerator somewhere with toes in it or something? Like, where is he finding these? And he's like, no, I don't know where this came from. So it makes your mind wander even more because it's like,
where did Baby Groot get this toe? Big question.
Well, this might be, for a lot of people, less of a traumatic thing than losing a toe. But for Peter, I think it might be more traumatic. And that's getting his Walkman squished by Ego. So no longer be able to play, Awesome Mix #1 or #2 anymore. That's pretty devastating. His connection, back to his mother, Meredith.
Yeah, I think it is really devastating. Though, of course, we see a moment towards the end of the movie where we see that Yondu actually left a gift behind for Peter, which turns out to be a Zune. Microsoft's often forgotten music player, but luckily for Peter, there are 300 songs on it. What I like about this is that it kind of becomes a major symbol of Yondu's love because Peter got these mixtapes from his mom and that was how she expressed her love to him. And now he's got the same thing from Yondu. Like, how sweet is that?
Yeah, it definitely kind of carries through because his connection to his mom was through music and now his connection to Yondu would be the same. But now this time with 300 MP3s.
Yeah. I love this moment with Yondu when he's coming down from the sky and he kind of looks like, what is he holding? Does he have a little parachute or something?
He's holding his arrow that he controls.
Oh, that's right. He's holding his arrow and he's kind of coming down from the sky. And Peter says, you look like Mary Poppins. And Yondu says, is he cool? Peter's like, hell yeah, he's cool. And then I love this line. Yondu says, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of levity to some of the more depressing scenes at the end there.
Well, I think we can't forget our Stan Lee sighting for this movie.
And this is definitely one of the more interesting ones because I think there might be a little like fan service here with Stan Lee and what he's talking about with extraterrestrial beings, if you want to.
Yeah, they're the Watchers. He has this line, before I was so rudely interrupted. That time I was a Federal Express man. So he's basically telling them some things, like informing them because the Watchers are kind of, I guess a little bit more about the Watchers than I do. What are the Watchers?
Yeah, the Watchers are this race of beings that, as the name implies, they're watching. And part of that is they're really not supposed to be communicating and interjecting into what they're watching. So what's interesting about this scene is they're actually, I guess, kind of not really having a conversation with, they're listening to Stanley talk about all his cameos and adventures he's having, on Earth.
Well, according to the internet, this moment in part created this like long-running fan theory that Stan Lee's MCU cameos were actually reporting events to the Watchers. So kind of interesting moment if that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, it gives a lot of credence to things that are happening previous. I think we go back to, if we want to go all the way back, the listeners, if you haven't listened to this episode, or Incredible Hulk episode where the cameo for Stan Lee, he actually drinks this special soda that's been tainted with Hulk's blood and he doesn't die like most humans would die. But now that we're learning that Stan Lee, we've been seeing through all the Marvel movies, maybe he's extraterrestrial, not a human. So that's why he doesn't die when he drinks the tainted blood from Hulk.
He's also just all around because he's saying that time I was a Federal Express man. I'm pretty sure that's when he drops off the package for Tony Stank.
True. Yeah, it's a good point too. It's the same being on all these scenes, and not a different Stanley. It's the same person.
And that's Damage Diary. We've counted the damage, followed the fallout, and we've seen what happens when years of hurt go unaddressed.
But here's the thing. This movie isn't really about destruction. It's about what happens after the damage is done. Because throughout Guardians Volume 2, people are given opportunities to reconnect, rebuild trust, and repair relationships that have been broken for years.
Some take the chance, some miss it completely, and some don't realize what they have until it is gone, which raises a bigger question. What actually makes repair possible? We'll tell you what we think. Our biggest takeaway coming up next.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 isn't really about finding your family. It's about what happens after you find them, because that's when the hard work begins.
Some people are willing to tell the truth, some are willing to change, and some are willing to sacrifice. Which brings us to our biggest takeaway. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 shows us that repairing a relationship isn't about how much time has passed. It's about whether the people involved are willing to be honest about the hurt.
This movie gives us two very different examples. Yondu spent years making mistakes with Peter, but when the truth finally comes out, he chooses honesty. He takes responsibility for some difficult things, and he puts Peter's needs ahead of his own.
Meanwhile, Ego wants a relationship with Peter without ever truly owning the damage he's caused. He wants connection, but he doesn't want accountability. And that's why one relationship begins to heal while the other completely falls apart.
So maybe the question isn't whether it's too late to repair a damaged relationship. Maybe the question is whether you're willing to do the work that repairing the relationship requires. Because time matters, but honesty matters more.
Sometimes repairing a relationship starts with an apology. Sometimes it starts with the truth. And sometimes it starts with finally listening to the other person's pain. But it almost always starts with someone deciding the relationship is more important than their pride or ego. And that's it for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Family secrets revealed, planets exploded, and one extremely important lesson about who earns the right to be called family.
For me, the most surprising part of this movie is the biggest battle isn't Peter versus Ego. It's the battle between avoiding hard conversations and actually having them.
So we'll leave you with this. Is there a relationship in your life that's been damaged by time, distance, or an old hurt? And if there is, what's the first step towards repairing it? An apology, a conversation, or perhaps a little honesty that's been a long time coming.
If you're enjoying the show, share it with a Marvel fan or maybe an apology nerd like us. Also, you can join us on Letterboxd, where we're keeping the apology conversation going between episodes.
Next up, we're diving into the world of Spider-Man, where good intentions, growing up, and getting tangled in complicated relationships create plenty of opportunities to ask what could have been solved with an honest conversation. Until then, I'm Amber.
I'm Todd.
And we are Super Sorry. Super Sorry is written and hosted by Amber and Todd. Produced by a Super Sorry LLC. Music by Jam Studio. Special thanks to MCU Wiki, CBR, Spoilertown, and MovieLocations.com for serving as sources for Damage Diary. Your support keeps us asking the hard questions and saying the hard apologies. Thanks for tuning in and sharing with friends. And if you're listening from the Sovereign, a Dairy Queen, or literally anywhere Rocket has recently visited, we are super sorry.
One last thing. Are you like me and you watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and you're thinking, story-wise, the story seems familiar. Where have I seen this before? And then it dawns on you that it's very similar to a Season 2 episode of Futurama, a Biclops built for two, where it has very similar themes about family history and character identities and going to another planet and learning about this person, not who they said they are. That now that Disney owns the Fox properties, I just feel like, man, there's a lot of ripe opportunity for the Guardians of the Galaxy being played by all the Futurama characters. Wouldn't we like to see that?
Super Sorry is not affiliated with Marvel Entertainment, Marvel Studios, the Walt Disney Company, or Disney+. As of this recording, all Marvel characters mentioned in this podcast are the property of the Walt Disney Company.